Hello, everyone. This is Dwayne Monroe, and welcome to the Dialectical House Party, Structured Dialogue Part 4 with Brother Alkmi and yours truly. In this, which I suppose we could call an episode, we continue our exploration of the category pairs. In our previous conversations, we dove into the following: necessity, accident, bit of reason, result, and we are going to get eventually to particular general. But today, in the interest of time and to actually zero in, we're going to begin with reason, result. So with that introduction out of the way, take the stage, Brother Alkmi.
Thank you. Gracias, compa. Thanks for having me back as always. It's a pleasure and a privilege and an honor to be with you and our wonderful comrades in the audience, especially our African and Indigenous family. Shout out to you all. I'm Alkmi. Annyeonghaseyo. Haisai. I'm a Japanese, Okinawan, Korean diaspora. I'm a decolonial Marxist-Leninist. But this talk is for everyone who wants to learn dialectical materialism, which is the science of universal relationships and the science of the laws of motion. This is for anarchists and revolutionary nationalists as well. You don't have to be Marxist-Leninist to use this. This is a knowledge system, you guys, that is composed of 2 principles, 6 philosophical category pairs or dialectical universal relationships, and 3 universal laws of motion. This is mostly based on the Vietnamese Education Ministry's curriculum of the basic principles of Marxism-Leninism and dialectical materialism, translated to us for the first time into English from Vietnamese by our wonderful comrade Luna Nguyen, or Luna Oi. Please check out her publishing, her and her husband EJ's publishing entity and apparatus at banyanhousepublishing.com for either a free ebook version of this or $20 to $22 of the paperback for you to be shipped out and mailed for this to almost anywhere in the world. Please check out Comrade Luna's excellent YouTube channel, Luna Oi, which is basically an educational medium and hub for all things Vietnam political economy, the political system of Vietnam, their political theory, and life as a Vietnamese comrade. I'm going to be basing most of the corpus of our pedagogy today and in our continued conversations with Comrade Dwayne and you all off of our Vietnamese comrades' basically educational curriculum for dialectical materialism and materialist dialectics. Side note before we get started, if any of you all are jumping in for the first time, I appreciate you all. Thank you for being here, comrades. But there's simply no time, I apologize, to start from a 101 ground up level 0 perspective. Please go back and watch the panoply of the media library and resources that Comrade Dwayne and I will be putting in the comment section of this YouTube video to see all the past talks that I've had on Comrade Benji Schoendorf, anti-imperialist psychologist platform. The Resistance is Fertile podcast. We have a sub podcast called Dialectical Sandbox. Please go watch that. Shout out to Comrade Benji. Please go watch all my appearances on the wonderful Saturdays with Renee podcast on Black Liberation Media, our Black Radical media collective. Shout out to Comrade Dr. Ball, Sister Comrade Renee, all of you from the chat and all of our African comrades, as well as me and Comrade Dwayne's previous structured dialogues on this YouTube channel, Dialectical House Party. This will provide the needed architecture for you all to get caught up if you're coming into this for the first time. But jumping right into it, audience, before we get started with the reason and result pair, which is where we left off last time, I invited Comrade Dwayne before we started recording to do a little bit of an exercise of demonstrating our dialectical principles in everyday life for the audience and for us to get back into the swing of things since it's been a little bit. And in this exercise, you guys, for those of you who are already educated, I'm going to be trading maybe 2 examples each with Comrade Dwayne and what I call dialectical sparring sessions, where I will give Comrade Dwayne a subject or a phenomenon that exists in human thought, society, or nature, and I'll ask him to apply each of the pairs in some aspect of this subject or this phenomenon presented for the audience and for me to show how it works and show what aspects of reality these philosophical pairs are meant to parse through and to access. That's all these are, you guys. We're going to be teaching materialist dialectics today. That's a subset of dialectical materialist philosophy, the backbone of scientific socialism and of Marxism-Leninism, that says that the philosophy of dialectical materialism says that matter is all things in the universe, including phenomenon and thoughts, and consciousness is a certain kind of matter that is determined by matter and that can impact back on matter. That's all dialectical materialist philosophy says, you guys. We're not here to teach that to you guys today or in these structured talks. In these structured talks, I'm here to teach you guys and learn with you all and help us understand from the Vietnamese comrades' excellent curriculum, materialist dialectics. It's a knowledge system that's essentially a subfield of dialectical materialist philosophy that, again, as per my previous talks, It is the methodology of dialectical materialism. It is how to apply the philosophy of dialectical materialism and its axiological presuppositions to your approach to understanding and analyzing any phenomenon in the natural world, the world of human thought or human society, in order to understand how things exist relationally in order to transform them through your labor and practice. Materialist dialectics is dialectical materialism applied as a methodology, and it's a knowledge system that lets us analyze anything in the human world, society, or the natural world in order to comprehend it, to change it. That's all this knowledge system is, Comrade Duane. And as a brief run through for our audience, this knowledge system includes 6 philosophical category pairs that represent 6 universal relationships that are in all matter, in all phenomenon. They are the particular general relationship. This has to do with, again, the sameness and the difference of all things. The particular category refers to any specific thing. The general category refers to shared things between particulars. The reason result category pair, you guys, is all about cause and effect in a materialist dialectical way of seeing things. It deals with reason is the category of things mutually impacting each other when any two things interact at all. And result is the produced outcome of any mutual impact, which is the change or the motion that occurs from any mutual impact between two things. This pair is used for helping us understand where the location or the origin of a change is in the system. Necessity and accident is a category pair dialectical relationship, you guys, that helps us navigate uncertainty and certainty. Necessity is a category that essentially accounts for anything that inevitably happens all the time, certainly because of internal relationships. Accident is a philosophical category, you guys, that refers to the aspect of reality that is unpredictable and is uncertain and cannot be said with certainty to happen or not. And this is due to external mutual impacts between things. It deals with unpredictability. This dialectical category pair, you guys, says that these two poles or aspects of reality are always changing in flux with each other, and they can be manipulated. Content and form, you guys, is a category pair that deals with content, the category referring to the thing's substance or anything's sum of their internal constitutive elements. It is the material that something is made out of. And form, which is the category that deals with essentially the arrangement, the configuration, or the structural modality that a thing existed. Form is just all the interrelationships between a thing's elements that constitute its content. So my content is I'm carbon and I'm cells, and my form is that I'm a 5-fingered being with 5 limbs that has the shape of a Homo sapien with a head and limbs. This is used for helping us identify where the change in things happen and how to suppress or manipulate the change as things develop as processes. Essence and phenomenon is a category pair, you all, that deals with essence, the category that encompasses all of the stable internal relationships inside of a thing that define it for what it is at all stages of development throughout its lifetime, as well as those relationships which drive its development and its motion throughout its lifetime. These two things are linked in materialist dialectics, and we can get into that in another talk. But a thing's essence is its internal relationships that drive its development and that define it for what it is. The phenomenon philosophical category, you guys, is any external manifestation of a thing's essence under a diverse set of external conditions. They're how essence speaks to itself and speaks to the outside world through manifestations of other things. These are how essence shows us what it really is. These are how the internal nature of things reveal themselves to us. This category pair and this universal relationship, you all, shows us how to understand the internal nature of something through its external manifestations. And finally, you guys, the possibility reality category pair deals with the aspects of reality which are real and which are not yet actualized potentials. So the reality category, you guys, refers to anything that has existed or does exist. The possibility category in Vietnamese materialist dialectics, you guys, refers to any potential state of a thing that could be. And these exist within real things. So shortly, reality possibility is about how to transform pre-existing configurations. Essence and phenomenon is about how to know the inner nature of things, even though we can't see this. Content and form gives us a roadmap on how to manipulate the change in something and reconfigure its structural architecture in order to facilitate change. More on that later. Necessity and accident helps us navigate uncertainty and certainty in life. Reason and result helps us understand where change comes from. And particular in general helps us understand how things are connected and how things are distinct from each other. Now, before we do a little sparring and then getting into our lesson with reason and result, Comrade Duane, I'll do the same thing I did with you last time. What do these universal relationships make you think of? How did you think before you learned this wonderful material? And how do you see this lacking or applied in the comrades and non-comrades around us in the working class in everyday life?
There's I would say, a tendency towards, I think I've mentioned this previously, siloed thinking, right? Something even as simple as cause and effect often seems to elude many people. Like something occurs, and I mean, and cause and effect is not often described as a dialectical category, but rather a scientific category. Um, but it should be common sense that things do come from something, right? And so people seem to be constantly surprised when events occur. When if they were thinking of as you say, reason result, for example, they shouldn't be surprised at all. This is what first comes to mind, is the fact that there's a tendency towards siloed thinking. It's common, and I think it's also encouraged in us to see things in this siloed way.
No, absolutely, comrade. I love that your mind went there. Long story short, comrades, dialectical materialism and materialist dialectics wants us to assume essentially three things. These come from the principles I referred to last. Everything's connected, everything's changing, and everything contains a certain kind of connection or relationship that causes them to change. It's a unity of opposing forces that's temporary. We call that a dialectical contradiction in our field. Oh, side note of a side note. I told you guys what materialist dialectics does and what it is. I didn't really tell you like its definition or its concept. It's that we can use it as a slogan to define it. Here's some that I like. Here's some that I like from Engels and Lenin and our Vietnamese comrades. What is materialist dialectics, Alkmi? Well, it's a knowledge system that can allow you to analyze anything in the world or nature or thought to change it. Okay, but what's its concept? What's its essence? What's its core slogan that can capture all of it in a simple little, flourish? I really like Engels and Lenin on this, you guys. It's the science of contradiction. It's the science of relationships, particularly the universal relationships, like the reason-result or the possibility-reality relationship. It is the science of the laws of change as well. But yeah, go on.
That's precisely right. And I think that although Marx, of course, did a great deal of work on this, a lot of it captured in letters as well, and speeches, and not always within published work, which is why it's worthwhile to study Marx's as much of Marx's literature as possible, much of his output as possible. I think Engels, as we know, Engels really, before his death, was trying to carry this forward in a very serious way, which
contributed more to it than Marx did. Marx was more political economy. But
precisely. Which, of course, in the Vietnamese text, that this is acknowledged.
No, absolutely, comrade. And then this gets real nerdy, which we don't have to get into with y'all, but for all you nerds, Marx never said dialectical materialism. We dialectical materialists and those in the tradition of this knowledge, this thought system. By the way, you guys, don't take science to mean literally what it means in English. Science in German was Wissenschaft, which means basically knowledge craft. It's more used in a loose sense of the ongoing practice of constructing knowledge systems based on concepts that align with concrete phenomenon in the real world and the real levels of matter. That's what we mean when we say science here. This is the science of the most universal aspects of matter at all. It doesn't replace the particular sciences like chemistry and psychology and biology and physics. We've said this before, but it is the universal scientific philosophy and philosophy of science that essentially expresses itself through the particular sciences and is omnipresent everywhere at every level of the sciences. Lenin and Engels were the ones who gave us dialectical materialism more in the current form that we know. That's my long story short for that. It's a Wissenschaft. That means it's a science of a knowledge system that is perpetually being updated and is an open system and is a collection of categories and concepts that can describe the world. That's what Wissenschaft means. I only wanted to make that aside with the audience because technically, if you want to be nerdy, Marx never said dialectical materialism. He was just a user of the dialectical method. He applied this to political economy and study of capitalism. That's what political economy is in Marxism-Leninism. It's dialectical materialism applied to a critique of and an understanding of the laws of motion of capitalist mode of production. Engels was more invested in the dialectics of nature, many fields that he left Marx in his political economy too, so that he could apply dialectics to other fields of science. Very interesting. You should look this up if you all have the interest. Lenin expounded on this further. So essentially, dialectical materialism, what we kind of say in our tradition is technically Lenin and Engels gave it to us in the named form. Marx was just the first user. He didn't necessarily demonstrate it or try to leave pedagogical material on how to reproduce this. That wasn't what he concerned himself with. That was what his buddy Engels wanted to do. But pulling back out, comrade, you said that reason and result really makes you think of how people think of things as disconnected. The only thing I wanted to bring this up to you guys, highlight in my bring up of this aspect of the knowledge system with you guys for is dialectical materialism says the opposite. It wants you to understand that all things are connected through their mutual relationships they have with each other, through their internal and external relationships, and that things are always changing throughout time because of relationships, right? we'll call it the idealist and metaphysical worldview, which comes out of Europe, and it's basically innervates all of the superstructure in U.S. imperialist capitalism these days, is the opposite of these philosophical presuppositions. Metaphysical idealist thinking wants you guys to think that things don't change, or think change comes out of nowhere, or that things are disconnected and isolated and static. So the capitalist world wants you to think that things are frozen and that things are disconnected. Materialist dialectics is the opposite. It wants you to acknowledge the objective fact that all things are interconnected and all things are changing due to those interconnections. So, Comrade, you very, very beautifully explicated a lot of normal people, and Marxists and socialists and comrades are infected by non-dialectical thinking because they have a tendency to see things as disconnected, even in cause effect, even in other ways.
Exactly. And note how this is used in the modern world. Corporations, for example, releasing a product will say that something is wholly new. The iPhone was presented as a completely new thing, and yet, it was the result of many different research projects brought together into a package, right? So, it wasn't something that was dreamed up. It was the result of multiple processes, sort of assembled into, as I said, a package. And yet, it was to Apple's benefit from a propaganda perspective to say that it's new, that there was no history. There was just, this thing just appeared. It appeared from the mind of, I guess at the time it was considered to have appeared from the mind of Jobs or something. This idea comes up quite a bit, where, and this happens also politically. People are encouraged to think, well, I'll vote for this person, and I don't have to pay attention to the history of the party. I only have to pay attention to this person.
Great man theory, or reducing historical events and their motion to one person, that also is the opposite of materialist dialectical thinking, you guys. Because as historical materialism, which is dialectical materialism applied to the movement of human society, too much to get into, that's Luna's second book, we won't go over that now. It says that the masses move history. People who operate but do not own the means of production generally in modern societies. Great man or great woman or great non-binary person theory reduces ideas and the social nature of how humans advance and evolve and feed off of one another and improve off of each other's old ideas being recycled into new things. This is unscientific, and this is not how humans operate nor how we have ever existed. And it does serve to further entrench and circumscribe pre-existing hegemonic class structures. So essentially, you guys, when you think great man or woman or non-binary person, if you think ideas came out of nowhere, if you think that nothing out of history, if you think that you shouldn't care about the life beyond America or the life beyond your state or your city, these are all extremely anti-scientific, anti-material, and anti-dialectical ways of thinking. And by the way, just as a side note, shout out to Sister Samantha. I love that she's on with you and your co-host. You're extremely sardonic and funny co-host on your other channel. You guys should watch out Comrade Dwayne's. I'm sorry, it escapes me, but it's a film analysis from a radical perspective.
It's called Film Conversations, and I'll include a link.
Shout out to Film Conversation.
To that along with it. Because Samantha recently joined us, and my co-host Dennis Claxton and myself, we're really happy about that because Samantha brings, her wisdom, her intelligence, and her industry knowledge. And as I've said many times, she's my sister in politically, but also my sister in trying to get across the materiality of the industry from that you've worked in for some time. And we're really looking forward to her insights and her just her fantastic self as a human being participating in our project. So thank you for mentioning that.
No, and it's not apropos of nothing, although I love shouting out my comrades till the cows come home. You guys know that. Sister Samantha and Comrade Dwayne are basically, in a kind of way, class traders. They were insiders of important organs of the capitalist imperialist beast. Sister Samantha with Disney and her work in animation, and Brother Dwayne in the tech field and in computer sciences. They want to disseminate knowledge about what's really fucking going on with your Disney movies and with your Apple products. They are people who are materialist in their own fields, trying to generalize materialist knowledge about aspects of the capitalist political economy we live in to all comrades who may not carry their materialist analysis over from their politics into their understanding of technological systems, LLMs, or Disney movies and the propaganda of empire that wants to colonize your mind, right? And perpetuate essentially consumerist, colonial, depoliticized, identity-based relational matrices that we understand as the American identity. Sister Samantha is teaching us how the American identity gets recreated and propagandized and reproduced through something as innocent as a Zootopia movie, which is actually fucking propaganda. Don't watch it. Sister Samantha and Brother Dwayne have value in our sphere because they are highlighting interconnections that were not previously reflected in a lot of leftists, and a lot of Marxists, and a lot of our comrades and activists and organizers. They are insiders to the industry who have firsthand, through their own practice and labor, and expended and exploited labor at that, witnessed the interconnections that innervate these seemingly innocent or innovative aspects, you could say, of this disgusting thing that we call the capitalist mode of production. They are highlighting interconnections that previously in our minds represented just random disconnected phenomena. This too is very materialist dialectical. Shout out to you, Ukti, and shout out to you, comrade. And then pulling all the way back onto original onus, it's dialectical materialist to see that things are connected from an objective point of view, not connections that you impose on them in your own mind, you guys. You actually need to see the physical objective world as it actually exists and all of its social relations and its beautiful, textured, and torturous totality. It means watch the news, but not Fox News. It means look at the economics of the Iran war or why there's a Holocaust in Gaza. Not reduce everything down to economics, right? That's economism. Shout out to the vulgar Marxists, right? We're not that either. We understand superstructure, culture, religion, thought forms, social relations, labor relations, technological relations, nature relations play a part as well. But we need to understand things as connected and from being connected from an objective basis of economy, of politics, of ecology, of sociality, right? Not from a woo-woo metaphysical spiritualist kind of perspective. I'm spiritual too, but we're not doing that in our analysis. Now, comrade, my original point to you was these pairs, if you can remember them, I gave a very bullet point run through. Before we get into reason and result, you guys, I'd like to do a little sparring with Comrade Dwayne. Comrade Dwayne, let's start backwards. How about you give me two things, and I'll give you two things. We'll start at possibility reality. We're just going to apply them to each one. We don't even have to be right. I only ask, let's talk about any matter or phenomenon or thought in the physical, mechanical, chemical, or biological matter. Let's leave the social, psychic, and the political for later. We'll get into that, but I want to show the audience as always, I'm a Marxist-Leninist. I don't want to depoliticize anything. But guys, I want to show you guys this can apply to a dog or fucking my fucking stubble on my chin and anything in the world before we apply to anything and everything in the political world. But please, comrade, give me two subjects, anything at all in society, nature, thought.
I am going to borrow an example from the book. There is water, and then there can be ice.
Excellent. Let's use one of those. I have a cup of water. The reality is the water is currently liquid. Previously, it may have been vapor, or it may have been liquid in another form, like in my fridge or in my faucet or whatever source that my faucet relates to get me the water in my apartment. But the reality is right now, it is a liquid phase of water in my cup. Maybe previously it was possible to be in my cup, and it was in the sink reservoir. That was a possibility that turned into reality. But the reality is it's in my cup and it's liquid. A possibility that lives inside this reality, comrade, is it could be ice. It could be steam. It could still be water, but in my belly instead of in my cup if I drink it and perform the action of relating to it in the masticatory way that forms a bolus of liquid that you and I as biological Homo sapiens evolved to be able to stick inside of us to hydrate. I see the water in front of me as liquid. There are possibilities that it could be solid or gas or inside of me as liquid, but there would have to be certain objective conditions like a stealing or a leaching out of its quantity of degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit, depending on where you are in the world, to eventually induce a quality shift of it losing its quality of liquid and turning into solid. That would be an objective condition needed to meet the possibility of it being solid to actualize in reality, or gaining enough quantity of degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit to turn it into steam and give it the quality of being vapor instead of liquid. Or the subjective condition that would be needed, which is that which requires human will, would be I need to tell my hand to pick up my water, use the grip that evolution gave me to down the glass of water down my esophagus. It's still water, but now it's inside me, not outside. That's a possibility that would require me to do and exert that necessary set of labor. That's the possibility of reality here. The possibilities can happen, and they exist within the current existing state of the liquid water, but certain conditions would need to be met first. Materialist dialectics says there's always an objective condition component and a subjective factor component. The objective conditions, you guys, are nature and the stuff outside of your brain, the things in the material world that are required to make something possible real. The subjective factors, as Baba Daruba says, is the human will required to do an actualized possibility. Any reflections before I ask you for the second one, comment?
I find possibility and reality to be one of the most intriguing and subtle of these category pairs. Because as with reason result, it's something that I think that most of us miss most of the time. That there is a difference between a possibility and reality. I think most people understand that, but I think that it gets muddled because we believe that, and this may be the result of propaganda in many ways. So, for example, we'll use the classic science fiction example. You watch a movie. The movie depicts starships whizzing about, in interstellar space between the solar systems, and someone might say, "Well, that's a possibility. That might become a reality." But the real question is it a possibility? Are the conditions there? Exactly. So is it a genuine possibility? But then there are things that are possibilities that can become reality. If I have a pile of wood and the wood is dry and the conditions are right for fire, it's possible that a fire will occur in that pile of wood. And it is also probable, it could be highly probable, that that the wood could combust under the right conditions, or someone might set it ablaze. It could be done on purpose, right? But the conditions are there. A pile of wet wood that's green is much harder to change the possibility of fire into the reality. But a pile of wood that's dry and old the possibility is much stronger. So there's gradations there as well.
All possibilities have different requirements to actualize into reality. That's what the Vietnamese say. Some possibilities have more requirements. They're harder. We'll move on from there, but I'll tease you guys with that. It is quite a cool pair. Give me a second subject, comrade, and then I'll hit you.
A second result or a second example?
No, second subject. Second phenomenon in human thought, society, or nature. Because we're going to do two for each pair, just for the audiences.
Yeah, there is, let's say, what's a good pair? There's so many things.
No, comrade. No, we're on possibly reality. I'm going to have us do two things for each pair, is what I'm saying. So you gave me water. Give me something second.
Well, I think. Well, how about the dry wood and fire?
Oh, beautiful! I love that, comrade. Yeah. Comrade Dwayne gives me the subject of dry wood. All right. The reality is, it's wood that was probably once living. It was probably once wet. It was probably once a tree. The possibility that it would become wood was just a potential state lurking inside its internal contradictions. That shit got realized because it's wood now. It's not a tree anymore. It's not living. It's not wet. So it was once not what this was. Being dry wood was once a possibility, but now it got actualized because certain conditions and factors are met. So right now, the reality is, even if it was formerly something different, like a tree or a wet wood, it's dry wood now. That's the reality. Within the reality of it being dry wood, there's the possibility of it being ash. There's the possibility of it being a structural element inside of a house. There's a possibility of it being reformed into a little footrest for me to stick my feet on when I'm going camping and I'm putting my booty on another set of logs or another set of wet or dry wood. There's the possibility of this dry wood being set ablaze, being ash, being a house, or being a footrest. But how it'll turn into each of those and realize into that reality, it's going to have different requirements that need to be met. That's what this pair helps us understand. If the pile of wood needs to be a footrest, not a lot of labor needs to be done. The conditions are it needs to be dry wood. Okay, fine. And not destroyed. Okay, that's already there. And the subjective factors are you need a human to pick it up and segregate it into a small enough pile that forms the sufficient quantity of height and mass that can bear a human set of legs, positioned exactly in space to relate to my body, extending my legs out while I'm sitting. The requirements for it to be ash are a little harder. You would need to induce a certain set of relationships and interactions that would involve the chemical oxidation of the carbon molecules in the wood to basically participate in that tetrad that we call fire. I can't remember all four components of fire, but you probably do, compa, with your physics background. It needs an oxidant, it needs a fuel source, it needs two other things. If that stuff is there, those are the chemical objective conditions needed to turn it into fire, to burn, to set ablaze the logs, and to rearrange their internal chemical relationships, to turn carboniferous wood into carboniferous ash, right? Through the interaction that we call fire, which is basically a piece of matter that is combustible due to its specific internal relationships, reacting with air and a fuel source to strip electrons off of the atoms and the molecules that make up something, to give off an enormous amount of heat because it's an exothermic reaction, create what we call fire, as well as to convert the thing that's being burned eventually into what we call ash. That's a lot of requirements. It would need a human wanting to do that, a human able to do that, a human with all the abilities to do that, with like the knowledge of how to set something ablaze, the fuel and the tools to set something ablaze. And of course, the wood would have to stay dry. Here's another possibility. It could be wet wood. Oh, if it rained, that possibility would be realized right away. It doesn't need a human. Here's the last possibility. It could be a house alchemy. Well, yeah, but that would require a lot of requirements. It would need to still not be rotten. It would still need to be stable, wet or dry. There would need to be a human there with the amount of skills or the amount of capital to mobilize to hire other humans to use that as a part, not the whole thing. I can't make a pile of logs in a house. I can just turn the pile of logs into a part of my house. You need all that to be constructed to be there, the economic relationships to be mobilized, and the will, right? And the time, right? The temporal relationships to feasibly be there in order to convert a pile of wood, Comrade Dwayne, not into ash or to a footrest, but into a part of a beautiful house. That can happen too. That's a lot harder to transform into reality than the other two. So I really like the examples we gave. Let me give some to you. In the interest of time, I'd love for us to reflect on each one, Comrade, but I kind of want to do the bullet points of these so we can maybe reflect on one or two, but let me give you some practice. Let me give you a door, an apartment door that's locked and is functional currently. Give me the possibility of realizing that. I can't hear you, compa. Sorry.
I had my mic was on mute as opposed to the software. It's possible that the door will bar entry, right? And that could be a permanent state if you have neither a key nor the ability to force the door open. Or another possibility, and this is a social one, you may have a key or you may have the ability to force the door open, but the person inside doesn't want you to enter, and you respect that. And so there's no physical barrier, but there is a social barrier in that situation to you changing the state of the door from being a barrier to then an entry, right? And then we can use that description to talk about the conditions in which the door goes from being a barrier to being an entry point. It's smashed open, or it is peacefully opened, or the person inside the space wants you inside and lets you in. And so the state of the door goes from a barrier to not a barrier at all, depending upon multiple conditions.
The reality is the door's a barrier, but the possibility is it could be a portal.
It could be a portal.
That's exactly what a door is. Beautiful. That's excellent. One last one on this pair. A baby's diaper. That has not been used. It's bought. Diaper that's been bought but not used.
It could possibly, of course, serve as the means to receive the baby's the baby's waste. It also could have other purposes. People have used diapers for other things, for various reasons. But obviously, also it could be psychologically a symbol of comfort, to a parent, because I know that I have the ability to safely remove my baby's waste in a way that that doesn't create. Now it may create issues for the waste system, but it solves your immediate problem. So there's lots of things that a diaper could represent. It represents the material capacity, the ability to keep your baby dry and comfortable and clean, and therefore increase the baby's health. But also, even if you don't use it immediately, just the fact that it's there can serve a psychological function as well.
Absolutely. No, I love that. I love all that. All right, Comrade, we're going to do essence of phenomenon. We're going to pick up the pace. I'm going to try to be efficient and philosophical, but if I'm being vague, audience, I apologize. Watch the other videos, please. We're going to kick it up a notch. Comrade Dwayne, give me another thing. We'll do essence of phenomenon. That's beautiful.
Let's see. How about a bicycle? A bicycle and a bicycle accident.
I like that you're doing events. We can do those too. We did this last time. Comrade Dwayne's making it easy on me. Okay, fine. A bicycle accident, this stable set of internal relationships that define that what it is, even at all times throughout its development. The accident's done being an accident once it's no longer an accident. It's a very momentary type of phenomenon. But as long as it's an accident, it's defined by these relationships. A body in motion, either the bike or the receiver of the bike, kinetically transferring its energy to another body in motion or not in motion. And that kinetic energy converting into sound energy, into heat energy. It can convert into structural deformities in the body of the bike rider, or the body of the bicycle, or the body of the object of impact, or all of them. And it generally involves displacing. No, I'm not going to say that. You don't always fall off your bike from an accident. A bike accident is a collision that the bike has with something that has a different amount of kinetic energy than it has, either in motion, in more motion, or in equal motion, right? But along the same spatial axis that allows them to intersect instead of missing each other. That's the essence of an accident. Let's be more hardcore than just a bike. The essence of an accident, Comrade Duane, is two bodies with different amounts of inertia, one of them being a bike with the rider. You can't have that without a bike. I mean, kind of, maybe. We're being human-centered here. That displaces or causes physical deformities in the body and the potential to kinetic energy ratio of the bike and the bike rider as a body. That's the essence of the collision. It's a body being arrested or changed in its motion, usually by colliding with something with a different amount of inertia than it. The body being a bike and a bike rider. Essence from phenomenon from that essence might be, you might hear sounds of pain from the person. You might see deformities in the bike after the essence of the event manifests in the body of the bike rather than a thing that's happening in time. There can be impacts from this. This is where it gets into reason and result. Essence and phenomenon is kind of more of a fundamental look into how things happen. Reason and result is more instantaneous, immediate, comrade. Another phenomenon from that might be the person that got hit by the bike might have a broken rib or might have a bill to pay now because you hurt their car or their bike or their dog or their stroller or their property. A phenomenon of that might be skid marks on the sidewalk where the accident actually occurred. A phenomenon might be cars getting backed up because this happened in the middle of a street. And so literally it's actually affecting even like drivers and non-participants to the accident. The accident could literally manifest in blocking traffic, even people who aren't directly part of that. These are all phenomena that manifest from this set of internal relationships. We'll go back and forth. So I'll give Duane his first one. He'll give me a second one. Comrade Duane, let me give you a just a car that's parked in the garage. Give me an essence of phenomenon with that.
That's interesting. Obviously, so nothing's obvious. The car, of course, was designed, constructed, marketed, sold as a means of transportation, and the fact that it's in the parking lot or garage indicates that it moved at one time because it wasn't manufactured there. It didn't teleport there. It had to travel through space and time to be there. So the fact that it's in the garage or in the parking lot tells you right there, that tells a story. The story is that someone operated this vehicle to get to this space. And they may have errands to run, they may be going to work, maybe visiting family, any number of things. But they traveled from, as the saying goes, A to B, to park there, to do whatever it is that they're going to do. And that's actually a bit of detective work, isn't it? It's kind of light detective work.
But essentially, the essence is it's a vehicle that's made to be in motion that's currently not.
Yeah, that's currently not in motion. Yeah, and unless it's malfunctioning, will be in motion again, because of course the purpose, the point of when you park at a parking lot or a garage, the idea is that
it's a stable state.
It's a temporary stable state. Yeah, between moments of motion, because the idea is not that the vehicle is going to be there forever,
nope.
Right? Yeah.
Otherwise, you wouldn't own it as a vehicle. Otherwise,
precisely.
that lump of matter of plastic and metal and silicon would not have been arranged into a car. It would be used to make something else.
To make something else, yeah.
That's beautiful, comrade. What are some phenomena that manifest from that essence of a vehicle not in motion that was made to be in motion?
Oh, it's taking up space that could be occupied by someone else, another vehicle. It is part of a financial transaction, of course, because you have to pay to actually, be in that space. It could be could be a target for other actions by others, such as theft, for example, or some kind of intervention into the vehicle. Or it could actually suffer some kind of damage if it's parked too long, maybe in the sun. There are people park cars in airport parking lots and come back to their car after a month and it doesn't start.
Absolutely. Actually, only under the condition of if there's no shading or awning for your car.
Precisely.
You could be in a part of the garage where the conditions aren't such that phenomenon would ever manifest.
Exactly.
We're going to press forward, audience. We're only going to do one prepare. I'm so sorry. We probably won't get to reason and result, but I'd rather do the whole list. So let's press onwards, comrade. We'll just do one. I apologize. Me and Duane caught up for an hour before this, so we'll have more time, inshallah, in the future, as our happy to say. Here's another thing I was going to say, comrade. Shout out to you and Samantha for being materialists in your field and making interconnections where people didn't see them. I also brought that up because, unlike you, but like your other friend, who's not you or Samantha on the thing, I'm a stoner myself. So you said shout out to his little THC drink. Shout out to my little pen, my little Plumita. You probably already knew that, audience. From you, those of you who are from Benji's audience, Alkmi, Indica or Sativa? Well, Indica because I love Indy. No, but Indica because I got anxiety and it's good for my focus. I don't like Sativa that much. No, it's actually from Afghanistan. They called it indica because the Europeans were too racist to differentiate between cannabis, and it actually
Oh my
comes from
God.
racism. Yeah, I'm a cannabis guy. That was me before Marxism, but I digress.
But that's the reason. That's the reason that it got this name. Oh my God.
This can be a whole other talk, but long story short, yeah, indica means from India. Cannabis indica is not cannabis indica. It's what you call sativa. You know that. You're a native.
Yes.
What we call indica is actually Afghanica. It comes from our Afghani and our Pakistani Baha'is.
Wow.
It's very interesting. But racism and us Asians gave you guys fucking cannabis, and Africans had it before them too, and that's how it came to the New World. It's a long thing, but basically Europeans had hemp. They didn't have cannabis. It's the CBD kind of cannabis.
Right.
Cannabis was everywhere, but it's because of us that y'all got your dope. So fuck y'all for criminalizing us. Latinos, Mexicans, Indigenous, Black people, and Indigenous people did not have cannabis, but they uptook it. But Africans, it was your people that brought it to the New World through the transatlantic Ma'afa. But anyways, indica, not sativa. And I like ND too. But you guys, content and form. Comrade, please give me a subject. We'll just do one per pair.
Content and form. Now that's kind of a challenging one, I think.
Challenge me.
Content and form. All right. Let's see. This may be more. Say potential and realization. However, I'm going to throw this out. A film script and a film.
I'll just try to keep it simple. I'll just do the film script. The content of Luna's book goes into this. You guys, when you're analyzing art and incorporeal social objects, it gets a little different because they're not material, even though they do have a substance and they do have an arrangement. Just look at Luna's book for this, the chapter on content form. It's very interesting. Luna and EJ and myself, we're artists too. We're not just Marxists. So this actually is very apropos for those of us who are thespians, visual artists, or musicians. Script, Comrade Dwayne, we can go about it looking at it as a thought object, like the story itself, or we can look at it as a physical object. I might do a little bit of both. As a physical object, Comrade Dwayne, the content is obviously it's the paper, the cellulose that's been arranged into the carbon leaflets that we call paper. It's the ink and the pigment of the ink that the script was written in, whether by a computer or by manual labor. And the form or the arrangement of that would be the paper is the basis and it's like the slate, from caveman times. It is the medium that the ink and pigment is applied to in meaningful combinations of phonemes and morphemes represented by script, right? To convey language in a way that's meaningful and syntactically self-consistent that tells a story. So basically the content is ink and cellulose and carbon. I wouldn't go maybe that far. You have to go to the level where it doesn't lose its identity. That's another talk. But it's pigment and cellulose. That's its content in the physical way. Its arrangement in the way that you see it, Comrade Dwayne, as a script with ink on it that tells a story of a theater or a movie play. I guess its form would be the paper is the base or the body. The ink and the pigment is etchings, and it's encodements of human thoughts onto the body. Hopefully in near permanent form, otherwise it'll be subject to being erased. And I'll even go one deeper. The content is always aging, so the pigment and the paper is always oxidizing. The cellulose is going through quantitative changes of making mutual impacts with oxygen molecules that are leading it to degrade. Eventually, once enough quantity has been built up, Comrade Dwayne, in that content, it'll change its form from being a new, nice, fancy script into an old, decrepit, like yellowing, oxidized script, and maybe even disintegrate. Eventually, the form will rearrange when enough quantity shifts of oxidation has been built up in the pigment of the ink and the cellulose of the paper, you guys. That was the physical object. As an abstract object, it's ideas that it isn't encapsulating, its characters, its story, its plot, its antagonisms, its style of writing, and the words used to convey the story itself, the narrative. Those are elements that comprise the content of the script as an abstract thing. Its form is, it was arranged in a linear way from A to B. Its form is the exact way that those ideas were put together to tell the story, right? The way that all those elements interrelate to each other to give rise to the totality that you and I know as the narrative script that film script was depicting, right? Comrade Dwayne, I'll give you a kafiyeh. Give me the content and form of that.
The content. Well, obviously it's a fabric, right? And a manufactured object. In some cases, a hand-woven object, but still, so manufactured, whether small scale or large, it is an artifact, a thing that was created. And then, of course, its content is also communicating something. So, if it was, say, I don't know, a scarf that said "I like beer," and there are such scarves, sadly, that would communicate probably nothing. But this actually communicates, as part of its content, beyond its physicality, it communicates regard for and alliance with the Palestinian people, right? And also, it is a way of reminding people of the situation of the Palestinian people and the situation in Gaza specifically, right? That is what the kafia is now, has come to mean. So that's also a key part of the content of that particular um, uh, bit of cloth worn in that particular way.
Absolutely. And you could even say that was beautiful, audience. And do you guys see how he went both into the meaning of it, the social aspects, as well as the physical, material aspects? I could do one more. The form of my keffiyeh is, well, Comrade Dwayne, you know, it's all polyester. It's all the same thing everywhere. But the form is some of the polyester or wool or whatever it's made out of is black and some is white. Those blacks and whites were arranged very specifically to, shout out to our Palestinians, shout out to Sister Samantha and all your people. I don't know if you guys know this, but as I understand, these little, they look like fucking brackets in the West that we use in the English language. These are representative of olive trees, right? The beautiful indigenous olive trees of Palestine and Bilad al-Sham, right? The white and black polyesters, Comrade Dwayne, were arranged in specific ways to mimic or give symbolic representation to the pattern of the design of a keffiyeh that means to represent the olive trees of a certain village in Palestine. The cloth and the textile, Comrade Dwayne, it's not the same everywhere because it was made into frills at the end of my keffiyeh. These frills are made of the same shit that the olive branch leaves are made out of, but they are arranged in different ways. The same content was arranged in different specific configurations and interrelationships between the elements of something that makes it what it is. That's why my keffiyeh looks differentiated. That's why it has patterns on it. That's why it has parts that are frilly and parts that aren't. The form was different, even if the content is all the same. This gets pretty deep. We can come back to that later, you guys. But essentially, the last thing I didn't say to you with my paper and Dwayne's script example, sorry I didn't get to the actual film compa, but the script itself is enough to analyze. When oxidation takes over my theater script and there's enough buildup of oxidative radicals of aging of the cellulose and of the pigment, the form will change. It'll be a broken down. It'll go from being a new script to being an old, almost unreadable script. I, as a human, can go into that relational system and I can make adjustments. I might go in and retrace over all the scripts, the movie script's original pigment and letters to more clearly show what was there before the oxidation occurred. I might go in and laminate the whole thing and freeze that thing from having any more quantitative mutual impacts with oxygen molecules to cellulose it, you know, to degrade the cellulose into yellow and then eventually disintegrated paper, Comrade Dwayne. Do you guys see what I just said there? When enough of a thing's contents change, you as a human can go in and rearrange the form to more suitably relate to the content. This is basically relative and it's more of a subjective thing in every specific situation. But just know that content and form can be made to be suitable or unsuitable with each other. When my paper and my script breaks down, when my pigment oxidizes, I can go in there and laminate it or trace over the ink with a new marker or pen to re-inscribe the original meanings of the linguistic symbols. That would be an example of me arranging the form when form has become unsuitable for content because of all the oxidation that occurred to once again renew the thing's development. We can get more into this later. Comrade Dwayne, necessity and accident. Give me one for that.
Necessity and accident. Interesting. It seems to be a biological necessity that we all must die. And yet, the timing, the circumstances,
Marxism, they say that all the time. Yeah.
Exactly. The circumstances, the means, the moment, all these things can be accidental. You know, one person sadly can contract a horrible disease, and a person who seems quite similar to that individual, does not contract that disease. One person goes through life happily without having a serious accident, a life-ending accident, and another person sadly does have a life-ending accident. There's so many ways for a life to end, but the necessity is that life does indeed end, no matter what.
Death always is inevitable, you guys. It's a necessary outcome of being human because it stems from the internal relationships that comprise what a living thing is. It's basically a battle between the contradicting forces of anabolism and catabolism, or maintaining itself through biomolecular reproduction and negentropic expulsion of entropy to create a localized system of order, right? That persists and maintains, relatively speaking, throughout time and space. And forces that want to undermine that system, such as oxidative radical stress and the approaching of the Hayflick limit by the shaving off of the little ends of your chromosomes that are encoded of useless DNA called telomeres with each cell division that you go through that eventually results in the organism maturing and aging instead of growing. Absolutely. Real quick fire rapid. You already gave me a subject, comrade, so you just jump right into that. Let's go to reason and result now. Give me just a thing or any situation, and I'll try to reason and result that. Just give me something that happens, or just give me something. Yeah.
Let's try something that seems very innocuous, and usually is very innocuous. A kitten eating ice cream.
The kitten and the ice cream are having a mutual impact with each other. The change, that's called the reason. The change that results from that, you guys, is the kitten probably will be full, and maybe she'll have burps because cats are actually lactose intolerant. It's not good to give them milk. So like, let's be objective and material. And the ice cream will go from being ice cream to being an empty bowl. That was the change that resulted from that. Reason and result tells us that causes and effects are infinitely changing. Effects become causes again. So that kitten is going to, now full with the ice cream in her belly, she's going to go on to have other mutual impacts with other things, like the litter box maybe. That change is going to lead to more reasons. Or, maybe she'll go lay on Dwayne's lap now that she's done eating ice cream because she's satisfied her hunger need. Now she needs her sociality need. That change that happened to the kitten as a result of that mutual impact is going to go on to have more mutual impacts. Results always become reasons. That ice cream bucket is going to go on to have mutual impacts with the sink or with Dwayne's hand because he's got to scrub it clean now and he's got to wash it and perform human labor to keep the dishes in his apartment, even those that his cat uses or his house, always in suitable condition to be used, which is they have to be cleaned in order to be eaten from. Now that's been eaten from, it has to be cleaned. So this changed. The ice cream bowl went from being full to empty. The kitten went from being a hungry kitten to a satisfied kitten, and she'll go have mutual impacts now as a satisfied kitten with other things. I'll give you something, Comrade Dwayne, a fan on a desk that's not on right now.
Depending upon the day, the fan is either something that you do not need to use or something that you do need to use. On a cold day in the winter, when your home is being heated, hopefully, then the fan may be there in a sense, lying in wait. Like, well, when if it gets warm or when the summer comes, I'll be turning that fan on, right? If it's a non-functional fan, there are some fans. Let's say people go to flea markets and find fans from the 1920s that just have a sort of aesthetic that they like. It may not even be a functional fan. It may be an art piece. So the fan can serve many different. The fan itself, the fact of the fan, can mean many different things depending upon whether it functions or not. Whether it's there as for aesthetics or whether it's there for its utility. And
let's put it like this, Comrade Dwayne. Let's do something happening with the fan. I turned on the fan and I'm receiving air from it. You tell me, what is the mutual impact there? And what's the change that came out of the mutual impact? That's basically reasonable.
Ideally, you're being cooled, right? By the motion of the blades.
So the blades use energy, so they get a little older and a little more age. You get a little cooler as you lose degrees.
That's right. That's right. And over time, of course, the motor of the fan experiences wear. If it's well engineered, it'll experience wear at a very slow rate. If it's poorly engineered, it'll experience wear at a faster rate. And be, so to speak, in your life for either a long time or for a much shorter period of time.
Exactly. Your relationship's lifetime with it gets used up a little more as you use its body up, and therefore your use value for it. All right. Pressing on to the last one, and we can end it with that. Comrade Dwayne, particular general, the most general and the most important. The Chinese don't even call it a fair. They call it an aspect of materialist dialectics itself. You guys are particular is a specific thing. The general is the category that encompasses anything that's shared between specific things that speaks to their inner essence and their identity. Comrade Dwayne, give me anything at all, or an event even. Events might be challenging.
Particular general. Yeah, and this is also, in my opinion.
Well, I'll do the particular general for you. You just give me a thing. I'll do the particular.
Okay, there you go. All right. This notebook that I use to record my notes.
Dwayne's notebook that he's holding in his left or maybe right, because it's a mirror reverse screen, is golden and it's got sparklies and it's got a cool little spine design and a red bookmark that's been built into the notebook. It's a notebook with gold foil and kind of like cool holographic type decal, and it's got a built-in bookmark. That specific notebook is unique because no other notebook in the world is the one that Dwayne's holding in his hand. Even if there's others of the same type from the same brand, there's none that have his model number and his SKU number for the commodity he bought as that notebook. The general of that notebook would be the fact that it has pages. Other books have pages, like Luna's Dialectical Materialism handbook or my notebook, right? They have pages in common with your notebook because they all have the same function of being a book, a piece of technology that humans use cellulose for to encode thoughts on. There's even virtual books that have virtual pages. Your book has a bookmark. Mine did too, comrade. But your book's also unique, right? Not only is it the only one in the world that's like yours, other notebooks don't have his sparkles. Other notebooks don't have a built-in bookmark like his do. Other notebooks might be full, and Comrade Dwayne's is not full and it's not empty. It's probably like somewhere in between, being used and not. These are unique aspects of it relative to what we're talking about. What is general in particular is always relative to the situation. Between me and Comrade Dwayne right now, that book is unique as fuck because no other notebook exists in our relationship. Now his notebook is not unique because now he and me share something. We both have something called a notebook, right? If you take Dwayne and you put him into his tech worker, awesome like mutual aid he's doing, that notebook's no longer unique because it's probably a comment that everyone's got because everyone's taking notes. Do you see how depending on the situation, what's general, what's particular, and then unique is a level particular where nothing else shares it? These are all relative to our scope of analysis. That's the most powerful thing about this. And we'll end it with Comrade Dwayne providing an example. Comrade Dwayne, I'll give you a radio. Tell me what's particular and what's general about that reality.
As with the notebook, the radio could have a particular design. Also, it could use a particular sort of arrangement internally, technically speaking, different kinds of circuitry. The radio can be of high quality or low, and by quality I mean its ability to pick up signals and to broadcast those signals via audio to you. Its ability to endure through time, depending upon how well it's made. How many frequencies can it pick up? There are radios such as ham radios, of course, that are far more fine-tunable than your normal consumer radio, right? Is it for consumer uses or military uses? There's different types of radio. Is it able to pick up signals from satellites? There are many, many different types of radio. But you could have, let's say, you have a radio that you bought at your local bodega, because you're like, you know what? I just need to listen to some AM radio. That's a particular type, but then the general category of radio can take you into a vast universe of types of devices.
And you're never going to know about radio unless you study as many particular specific examples of what falls under that category of radio as possible before you can come up with a definitive opinion. That's what this pair helps guard against, you guys. Dogmatism on the one hand and revisionism on the other. But thank you, Comrade. And with that, you guys, next time, I appreciate you all coming through, but we'll get into reason and result. Again, I apologize for getting excited as well as spending a lot of time on the sparring. But I think this was useful too, Comrade, because sometimes the folks who've already learned the bulk of this material, they don't always have an example outside of the Vietnamese book of people putting in action. I think this too is equally fruitful and useful. What do you think?
I agree. And for those who may be puzzled, like what are these guys talking about? Kittens, ice cream, I don't know, radios, atomic bombs, whatever. The purpose of these exercises is to help train our minds when we encounter things every day, because we are bombarded every single day with an effort to confuse us, right? There's an effort to confuse us by the capitalist media and so forth, and to use general terms and for example, let's take a word or a phrase, the regime. This word is used. This phrase, I should say, is routinely used against states that Western powers, led by the U.S., do not like, and they do not like them typically because they resist. This does not mean that there are no contradictions within these states, but it does mean that the use of this phrase, regime, the regime, is meant to put you to sleep. So what we're trying to do with these exercises, as we go from what we've done already, what we've done today, and what we'll do in the future, what we're trying to do is build our muscles, build our mental muscles using materialist dialectics and the application of dialectical materialism to help us be able to see all the things that are functioning and to place them into the correct types of categories and sharpen our minds so that we're thinking more intelligently, really, which is absolutely necessary, because the alternative is for us to be
you become an instrument of the enemy.
Instrument of the enemy, or as my grandfather used to say, a dope.
Essence and phenomena.
Precisely.
I appreciate all your time, combined audience. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And with that, I bid the audience adieu. Like and subscribe, as they say, and we will see you in episode 5 of our conversations. Looks like this is going to be a dialectical summer. Thank you so much, Brother Alkmi. And with that,
Everyone. Land back. Free Palestine.
Free Palestine indeed. Adios.